What's good with it in the hood with it? You already know what it is. Gunners Profiles where we I said double up boom boom boom. Get it in. You already know. Trip out on this. Trip out on this. You see that thumbnail in a Menudo style in direct fashion with no added preservatives. I'm gonna tell you about a homie who used to be a tagger and got into the hood, right? Tag banging. Now, in the 90s, there was a thing called tag bangers. For those of you that don't know, that haven't been around that long, here's some knowledge you can't get in college. Back in our days, there was taggers and there was tag bangers. Okay, there was people, and I know in LA they know about this, man, because it was a pretty big transition that happened. But where I'm from, there was a few tagging crews. You know, Cons, Misery, a group called Kids. I think there was some other shit, right? I don't know. I never was a tagger. Couldn't tag if my life depended on it. But at the same time, I wasn't tagging. I was trying to tag fucking people's faces. And that's just what it was, allegedly, for the feds that are watching, because I know people call them on me. This is what I'm talking about, right? I had a homeboy, and he's from my neighborhood, and he's vicious, right? He used to be a tagger from a group called Kids. And he was really involved. I guess he was one of the main ones in that crew. And I remember, man, going to school back in the days, I had homeboys that were taggers that got into certain crews. And some of these crews were hard. Some of these crews had some real vatos in it. Some of these vatos will die over a can of spray paint. Not only will they huff it, they will puff it, right? Some of these guys were really gangbang. It was like a gangbanging going on within each other. They were fighting against other tagging crews. You know, so back in them days, we used to hear about and see what was going on, but we never really focused on it because we were on some real life gangbanging thing. We were really focusing on North and South, Crip and Bloods and things of that nature. In that fashion, right? But they were definitely had some things going on within themselves. And we started to hear about it, you know, and I think a couple things made the newspaper, and we were tripping like, what? They're really doing it over a can of gold spray paint? Shit, right? The game's gotten real. And a lot of those guys started to transition over into getting into real cliques, getting involved in real barrios, right? Now, a lot of these guys were already living in the neighborhoods. They were already living in the barrios, but they chose to go a different path. They chose to creep up late night with the ski mask on and get the on and put some graffiti all over the bus, and that was cool. But every time we'd have a barbecue, a party, a kickback at the lake, or whatever it was, a lot of these vatos would be there. Now, I remember we didn't treat them like residents. We didn't treat them like they were part of the crew, but they were good homies. They were good, righteous dudes who didn't have a bad name. There was no flaws on their record or their jacket. They just weren't involved in the type of politics and the type of street things that we were involved in. But they definitely were involved heavily in what they had going on. Now, I know in LA, you know, there was a thing called tag banging going on where a lot of these vatos were forced, their hand was forced to transition into certain gangs and certain groups and certain barrios. And I know that happened, but in Northern California, it was a little bit different, especially in my barrio. We didn't force no one to do nothing. It was if you were going to be a tagger, hey, good, get the fuck away from us, right? Go spray paint. But if you wanted to kick it, you were definitely more than welcome and invited, unless it was something political or unless we had to speak some hood shit. Then, of course, stay away. I said stay away, right? And that's just how it was. Now, my homeboy that I'm speaking on, that I talk about, this vato was really heavily into the tagging. You know, like I said, he was the main one of his crew, the leader of the pack, right? And he was doing his thing. But at the same time, all his family, and it was such a big family, they were all Norteños. They were all involved in what we had going on, and every one of them was from my barrio. So it was like a smooth transition. It was something that was going to happen. And to tell you the honest to God truth, I never even knew till way later on when we were in Mexico that he was ever this certain tagger. I used to see his name everywhere. You know how these taggers are. They're fucking mysterious. You see their name everywhere, but no one knows what they look like. It's some fat guy living in a basement, all sweaty, that hasn't took a shower and has a black ass neck, right? It's usually one of them vatos, but on the late night, he's a wizard. He's a magician with that fucking can, right? So I guess this individual started to feel the peer pressure, started to feel the pressure of his familia. And because he was always at the functions, always kicking it with the homies, he kind of smoothly transitioned into becoming a norteño, and a righteous one at that. One that I think he felt within his own self that he had to put in more work than everybody because he had to kind of hide his past. Now, to me, I wasn't tripping. If you were a tagger, I don't consider that a gang. Like I said, I never considered that nada but a guy that fucking used Crayola crayons when he was young, right? So it didn't matter to me. You grew up to be this, hey, Holmes, and represented to the fullest. You know, it was different if you were a Crip in the past or a Sangre or even someone from the other side and you try to, nah. The Wigglization wasn't that real, right? I would definitely have a voice in that opinion and I would have had something to say. Even though now as an older man, I'm no longer part of that life. Back then, I would have said something. Now, I am going to tell you a story one of these days about a homeboy that actually came from another city. And it's going to be a double header, right? It's going to be a double banger because there's one homeboy that moved from Merced to Fresno and one homeboy that moved from Fresno to Merced. They swapped places and they were both from different things. And we're going to talk about that. But right now, this guy transitions and I never knew. So we're in Juarez, Mexico. And this is the first time I find out we're on the run. And it's me and my camarada, my homeboy, my taita, who I still chop it up. Yes, I do. I fuck with my crime partners like that. Ask him about me. I took the case. Facts, right? So, you know, we just talked the other day. Anyways, trip out on this. So it's his primo. We're actually all in Mexico. We're in Juarez together and the Wigglization is real. I'm out there eating tacos de perro and trying to duck the chainsaws. And we're doing our thing. And then we're conversating one night and it comes up. And his primo says, hey, remember we used to be a tagger and shit from that group? And he's like, oh, man, fool, the way the tagging game worked is, you know, I used to prevent a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I said, wait, you were that vato? Man, fool, you know how many times I had to fucking spray paint over your shit on the dead end store and tag over it, right? Come on now, bro. He said, yeah, bro, I was befuddled. I was, you know, and I said, indubitably. We started using big words. He was definitely involved in that, but he had no longer did that for years, but his primo put him on blast, and I definitely was clowning. I was capping. And when I say capping, younger generation, I don't mean lying. I mean, I was clowning on this vato heavily, right? But he was down, and I forgot his past. And then I started to understand, man, exactly what it was. Well, this individual actually is right now fighting a murder case. He is not the one, man. He continued to progress within his group, within the gang, and he continued to be a righteous one. So that went to show me right there, just because Vato had a tagging background and was involved in that, didn't mean he wasn't about the gang. Now, I know in LA, a lot of the Vatos used to be tagging crews, and they got a lot of tagging crews that are still righteously active and doing their thing. I know a lot of them Vatos get incarcerated, and they run resident, man, and they function, and they're going to do what they does, cuz. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not out there in the streets putting it down. Tagging is a way of life. To me, it's become part of the culture. Okay, the cultura has lowriders, it has cholos, it has norteños and sureños, it has paisas that get involved in things, and it definitely has taggers. That's part of not only the hip-hop era, the hip-hop culture, but also that's kind of something that blurs the lines, man. There's taggers of all nationalities, all ethnicities, right? But I know in LA and even in Merced, where I'm from, man, the tagging crews were mostly and predominantly Mexicano just because that's what we had. There was more of that, so that's what they're going to be. And they were accepted. Now, I remember one time I'm incarcerated in prison, or actually I'm in county jail on my way to prison, right? I'm going to catch a little 4-piece extra crispy with a side order of sucker sauce. That ain't nothing to it but to do it. I did that shit standing on my head by the toilet. You know, it's nothing. Anyways, but I'm sitting there fighting the case, and a Vato comes in, and he's a very well-known tagger from a group called Misery, right? Allegedly. And the homeboy's on it. One of my homeboys is like, hey, Vato's a tagger. Fool. Why is he functioning on our pod, right? He's not an active homie. But he had asked to go to that pod. He had volunteered. The black was like, we're going to place you here. He had not asked. He wasn't no punk. He basically was like, send me wherever you're going to send me. I'm going to stand on my 10. I'm going to be down, right? And I appreciated that about him because not a lot of Vatos could walk that tira. Believe me, not even a lot of active Vatos want to walk that tira, right? It's different. Again, the way it works, right? You get your whole fucking head kicked in. I guarantee it, right? It's different. You see them Vatos over there? They function. You want to go function with them? They're going to function, right? They're active and they function. So anyways, this Vato definitely was there. And I remember we approached him. It was an 8-man cell. And I got at him, so you're from this group? And he was like, yeah, Holmes. And he was like, look, all my family's homeboys, I kick it with you guys on the streets like that. I just do my thing on the side. He goes, I've never been from a body, but I'm real cool with these homeboys, that homeboys. By the time he left, this Vato did more burpees than me. He was a machine, a máquina. And eventually himself, he actually transitioned into another group in Merced. I don't really want to speak the name because I don't really care for their fucking hood. But anyways, he transitioned to them and he became a righteous homeboy. Now, he fell off later on in years, but hey, such is life, right? People do that. So, but he definitely was with the program. Now, I remember watching a little documentary on YouTube about tag bangers of the 90s. And I could identify with it. And the reason I could identify with this because of the story I just told you about the two individuals. You know, Vatos were definitely taggers back in the days. It was like part of something to do. I guess, like I said, it was part of the cultura. You either were going to get in the gang element of life, go the right way, straight and narrow, or you were going to become a tagger, you know. And a lot of Vatos did. Now, I remember another incident, right, where we caught a tagger slipping. you know, and we transitioned him over. No, but like we really transitioned him over into being a homeboy. We kind of forced his hand. This Vato was hitting up on our dead end. We have a store in my hood called the Dead End Store. Okay, the reason it's called the Dead End Store, we kind of just labeled it, but they even the owners call it the Dead End Store. And the reason being is back in the days, true story, we used to hit up, you know, back in the day, I did it a few times, I'm not gonna lie. We used to hit, Spence on Latira if they're watching. We used to hit up the store, Huelga Burrs, Norte, Dead End, all that, representing our barrio. It's right in our hood, right on the corner of Childs and R Street. Everyone knows, if you know, you know. And then, of course, we'd get crossed out by the north side or whatever. We'd go back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, the owner hit us up and was like, hey, look, I understand you guys are gangbanging, but this is my property. What do I have to do to make it right? Change your name to the Dead End Store. And so be it. Even the placas in town call it the Dead End Store. Facts, right? So that was that. Eventually, over time, the homies stopped hitting up on the store. I don't know if they still do, man. You know, it is what it is. Kids will be kids. But we definitely stopped, you know, because we worked out that deal with that guy. Now, this shit started getting hit up again, right? And I remember I was like, damn, but it was getting hit up with tag banging. So we were tripping. So one night, me and a couple homeboys were posted up across the street. There's a long fence and there's a house. And we were right there behind the gate on the house, creeping like this, like lions in the bush. We were waiting to catch this Vato slipping and break a couple toes, right? It wasn't nothing to it, but to do it. We were going to get his mind right so he could shine right, definitely. Plus, I wanted to huff some spray paint. So I was going to take his can of silver. I said, bang, bang, right? So we're right there watching. Pencil neck, little motherfucker, long ass, greasy hair, right? Comes through, beanie on, looking scarier than spit and beat street, right? Starts to do his thing. Hey, we're on him. We are on him. He's like, no, it's the neighborhood watch. No, it ain't the neighborhood. It's the neighborhood. I said, but we ain't watching nothing. What we're about to do, you're about to watch us huff all your cans of paint and beat the shit out of you, right? You're about to fill us and watch us at the same time. Tell me how that feels. Anyways, bam, we catch him. A little doublation. The doubleization is real. We Golden State Warriored him. Dubs on his head. Boom, right? Split his shit. He's leaking. Hey, man, please don't take my paint. This fool didn't care about his head. Didn't care about the sangre that was pulling up. Didn't care about nothing. Just don't take my paint. He was die hard, right? Or he was going to hardly die. But look, this is what happens. We're getting at him like, hey, bro, why are you disrespecting our water? Why we're on some high power shit, right? He's like, nah, bro, it's because it's a good canvas right here. You don't understand, man. I don't trip on shit like that. I'm sorry. Eventually, I started seeing him to come around. He started coming around the neighborhood and kicking it, and the embracement was real. He's from the neighborhood as well. To what degree of neighborhood, I don't know what he's doing, but he definitely joined up. You know, a lot of things happen in life. A lot of people transition from one thing to another just based on maybe they like it better here, or, you know, at one point in time they were doing this and now they're doing that. And that's fine and dandy. Myself is, if you can transition from being a tagger into a gang member, why can't you transition from being a gang member into a righteous member of society? You definitely can, but it's totally up to you, man. If the grass is greener, then go on the other side and get the grass, go cut through motherfucker shit though, right? But make it green. I hate lazy people. You just know what it is. Anyways, I know in the 90s there was dictation that went out. And it was kind of like tagging crews didn't have a choice anymore. This was down south. They were basically supposed to convert over. And I know a lot of auditors did. They embraced these guys. And a lot of these tagging crews end up becoming neighborhoods. And I tripped out on that. You know, I always trip, but you know, north and south, it's different. There's different rules and regulations and some politics I can't speak on. You know, it's kind of like going to jail. You know, people always ask this question. I'm going to answer it right here on this spiel. Do norteños have residents? No. They don't, right? There's no such thing as a resident. You're either going to be a homeboy or you're not. You're not going to be an association. You're not going to be kind of halfway in, halfway out. You're not going to have a foot in and a foot out. It's just not, it doesn't work that way with the North. That doesn't mean they're any better than any other group that does it differently. It just means that's the way that it's done. You're not going to go in there and be like, hey, I just live in Turlock, Holmes, but I don't claim Westside, Turlock, North. No, you do now, bitch, right? You do now. That's exactly how fools are going to get at you with the capital B. They ain't playing. Get over here, right? You're going to be part of the crew, man. And you know, it's cold because I've seen a lot of dudes that they're really not in the mix, but they got a crime partner that's a homeboy. So they're out there wiggling, doing their little robberies or whatever they're doing, and they end up getting caught and going to the same block because they're crime partners and they ain't got no smut on their jacket. And Vato's like, man, why do I have to do burpee? I never did this shit. Down one, down two. You know what I mean? Get your burpalization on, because I'm going to tell you right now, bro, if you don't, they're going to burp your fucking head wide open. Period. It's just the way it is. Now, down south, it's a little bit different. There's residences, Vatos that are really not from Waters, but they're hang-arounds. They've hung around, and they definitely rock the same way. So I don't understand why a Vato just wouldn't, get put on. But that's just me thinking, I'm just thinking out loud. But I know the tag bangers, there was a lot of taggers, and I know that they were trying to just keep their distance from any type of politics or any type of gang rules. And that was not to be the case. Eventually, over time, they got blackouted and beat up so much that they eventually started their own hoods, and they got in with the Sul. They said, fuck this, we're riding, right? That's what it is. Up north in Northern California, it's a little bit different, man. The art of tagging, I won't say will ever die. There's always going to be Chicanos, Mexicanos, Raza, Africanos, Woods that tag, right? It's just part of life. I think it's become part of the culture, and it always has been. But definitely, man, when you find yourself incarcerated as a tagger, you're going to have to choose up, bro. I remember a subscriber asked me, he said, Gun, who do the taggers kick it with? Do they go to PC? What do they do? There's no such thing as a tagger in prison, really. You know, there's either a resident from down south or a norteño, and that's it. You don't get to fucking choose and pick and say, but all I do is spray paint. Well, you know what I mean? We're going to spray paint this fucking whole wall right here with your sangre. You ready? Hike. You know, that's just how it is. Anyways, like I said, my homeboy actually did transition over from a tagger to a solidified real one, you know. One of the realest in my hood, one of the realest and illest, you know, very well-known individual. And like I said, when I first heard about it, man, I clowned him so hard. You know what I mean? I told him, so if I bring you a fucking white t-shirt right now, will you airbrush it for me? And I was just on him. He was like, hey, bro, I never did that shit. I was like a real life tagger. I said, oh, a real life tagger. Well, what do you know? Right? I was just on him. But I definitely respect and understand the situation, man, and what they're going through. I love art, man, and it's a form of art, and it's an expression. Just don't fucking spray paint on the side of my house, because me and you're going to have issues. And Gil, ask Gil from American Cholo what he thinks about spray painters. You know what I mean? He'll report you. That's just what, and I'm not saying he's a snitch. I'm just saying he ain't playing. He said it. You think I'm lying? Go on his channel. Bets on la tira. Just what it is. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Hey, just because of Alto's a tagger and because of their spray painting and shit and late night creeping, you know what I mean? No more shopping sprees. No more late night creeps. You never know how he's going to end up. I'm telling you, there's some real killers, man, from everywhere. That's why I always say, gente, there's hitters from everywhere, man. These tagging crews, they were boo-bopping each other, throwing cans of spray paint. Get them! Everybody throw the blue, ready, go! Right? They were like grenades, some grenade bombs. And the vatos are really about the wigglization. Anyways, with that being said, go out there, hustle, man. Get it for your familia. Do the right thing, because the right thing won't do you. You have to do it. You already know what it is. If you like this, hit the like and subscribe with a thumbs up. There's a notification button. You have to press all. Let's bubble fucking Gunner's profiles up. I'm thinking about changing the name on it, so if it gets changed on you subscribers, hey, it's not a troll. It's a real channel. I'm hooking it up. I'm revamping this thing. You already know what I does. If you don't like me, which I know a lot of people don't, hit me with the thumbs down. It's because you're watching anyways. Gunner's going to be the one that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's bringing you the best possible content and the realest, no lies, that I could bring you right here on YouTube. You know what it is. Subscribers ask questions. Where do taggers go? They go to prison. Who do they function with? The homies. Do they get any special fucking extra snacks at night? No. They're lucky they don't get fucked or whacked. That's just real talk. The gun. Bang, bang.